think of New York University, its athletic program usually isn't the first thing that comes to mind.
I'd like to see the school succeed, but I can't get too into a Division III program.
But for decades, the university's sports teams were some of the best in the country. The men's basketball team reached the NCAA Final Four in 1945 and 1960. And the Heisman Trophy? It's modeled after Ed Smith, NYU football alum. So is NYU's focus in recent decades to become a global campus to blame for the lack of interest? According to data compiled from NYU Athletics, teams like the men's and women's basketball programs rarely sell more than 1,000 tickets on a given night. But things have only gotten harder for some student athletes since the closing of the Kohl's athletic facility earlier this year. Just footsteps away from campus, Kohl's was once home to a number of sporting events such as basketball and swimming. But now, as you can see behind me, the 181 Mercer Street construction project is in full swing. The new building will include a 21st century athletic facility, but the project is years from completion, displacing more student athletes. It's already a common theme for some, like the men's and women's soccer teams, who call the Bronx home.
I almost feel guilty a little bit when I tell my friends, yo, like, come to our game. You just have to get on the subway it's like an hour and 15 minutes. So like, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot that you're asking from friends and people. There's an understanding that we're not at the top of NYU's priorities as athletes at NYU, or at least that's definitely the sentiment we have.
But the travel doesn't just affect players and fans. Rachel Ruker, sports editor at the Washington Square News, says logistical issues create unique challenges covering teams at the university.
I think proximity is just so important because if I know a game's happening nearby, then I'm going to be more interested in going. But again, it kind of comes down to the proximity thing, and I think that's really hard being in Manhattan. You can only do so much. So I think it's always going to be a bit of a rock and a hard place situation.
And with more interest at WSN going towards news and the arts, Ruker says sometimes it's difficult keeping a full staff.
If I don't have a good staff of writers, then it kind of falls by the wayside.
And if you think covering sports at NYU is hard, imagine trying to pump up the crowd.
The biggest thing is trying to get people to go to wherever the sports are being held, whether it be at Poly, whether it be at Hunter College now for basketball, or Chelsea Piers for hockey, or even Coney Island for the baseball team. It's really hard to get people to travel there to see the games. There's so many other opportunities to go see professional games or things that aren't even sports related, like concerts and movies and shows.
For now, the jury is out on how to make athletics at the university more prominent.
Maybe some presidents in the past have, but I feel like recently the board hasn't cared about sports. I really think we need to be a Division I program in order to really get my interest.
I think they need to just have a really big push on the athletics being brought home, like refocusing everything back towards campus.
Though the interest is lower than some would like, the passion of NYU student athletes is intact.
I really take pride in defending NYU, defending kind of the reputation that we have as a sports school, and I would love to see that grow, and I would love to see kind of the sports culture progress here, even though it does have its difficulties.
So will a new athletic facility boost interest in sports at NYU? Only time will tell. For Cooper Squared, I'm Michael Thompson.